All right, here we go. Let's go through this review sheet. I will go fairly quick because there's a lot to it. So, your tests will be very, very similar to this, just like most practice tests. Very similar. So, how long is AB if AC is 32? What do you do with these two things? Don't set them equal to each other. Add them up. 2x plus 1 plus 5x minus 4 equals 32. Okay, add them up to equal 32. So 7x minus 3 equals 32. So 7x equals 35. Divide by 7. X equals 5. We want to know how long AB is, so you put the 5 in there. 2 times 5 is 10 plus 1 is 11. 11 is the answer. Number 2, what's the relationship between 2 and 7? They're what types of angles? Alternate interior angles. Alternate interior, Kason. Shut your lid on your computer because that's distracting Tyler. All right, number 3. What's the distance between these two? Well, that's the distance formula. This is x1, this is y1. This is x2, this is y2. So it's x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared, where it's 6 squared plus negative 4 squared, which is 36 plus 16, which is 52, which is 7.2. If you take the square root of 52 on your calculator, yes. Distance formula will stay on the board. Yep, distance formula is going to stay on the board. Explain the difference between parallel and skew lines. Well, like on the ceiling tiles, parallel lines are two lines that don't touch that go in the same direction, or the floor tiles. Now, skew lines is like a parallel line, is a line on the ceiling tiles that goes this way and a floor tile line that goes this way. Okay? They're not parallel, but they're not in the same plane. So the difference is parallel lines are in the same plane. Skew lines are in different planes. Okay, that's the difference. You need to know same coplanar or non-coplanar. You might see that on the test. Okay, what do we know about these two angles? They're not equal to each other. They add up to equal 180. They're part of a straight line, so you have to add them to be 180. So 20x plus 10 equals 180. 20x, whoa, it's 20. 20x plus 20, right? So 20x equals 160. Divide by 20. X equals 8. Stick 8 in there. 13 times 8 plus 12. 13 times 8 is what? 13 times 8 is what? 104? Plus 12 is 116. That's our angle ADB, 116. Over here, slopes. What's the slope of a horizontal line? How much rise does it have? 0. So the slope is 0. The line parallel to B. Well, we got to look at B. What's the slope of B? We go up 1 to the right, 2, so it's 1/2. So line B is 1/2. What we know about parallel lines, they have the same slope. So that's 1/2. Line C is a vertical line. We don't know what the slope of a vertical line is, so it's called undefined. Undefined is the slope of a vertical line. The line perpendicular to B. If parallel is 1/2, perpendicular is an opposite reciprocal. What's the opposite reciprocal of 1/2? -2/1 or -2. Because you should simplify -2/1 to just be -2. Perpendicular to C. Well, C is vertical. What's perpendicular to vertical? Horizontal. What's the slope of a horizontal line? 0. Okay. The equation of a line perpendicular to y equals 2x minus 1 and passes through 4, 3. So if it's perpendicular and this has a slope of 2, what's the slope of the perpendicular line going to be? -1/2. So you get rid of choices B and D. Ooh, I guess they disappeared totally off the paper. Okay, get rid of those two, and now you have A and C. So you stick 4 in for X, 3 in for Y. So is 3 equal to -1/2 of 4 plus 3? The answer is no. Is 3 equal to -1/2 of 4 plus 5? Yes, it is. So C is the answer. A triangle has how many degrees in it? 180. So x plus 2x plus 6 plus x plus 14 should equal 180. What's 1x plus 2x plus 1x? 4x plus 20 equals 180. What do we do to solve this equation? Subtract 20. So 4x equals 160. Divide by 4. X equals 40. Okay, page 2. What type of rigid motion is that? It is a rotation. It's a rotation. Okay, which one has horizontal reflectional symmetry? Because if you drew a line through this, that would make ham, not how. If you drew a line through this, that would make mom, not wow. If you drew a line through this, it would make mo. That would make wam, not mo. If you made a line through this, it would be ho-ho, which is the same. Ho-ho, ho-ho-ho. Merry Christmas. Okay, the next one. You want to translate this point 2 to the right and 5 down. So first we have to figure out where this point is. It's at -3, 2. So it's right there. And then you're going to go 2 to the right and 5 down. So you're going to end up right there. What quadrant are you in? 3, because this is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. You're in quadrant number 3. Number 12. Which two triangles are congruent? This one and this one. So DEF is congruent to, and don't say GHI, because that would be the wrong answer. IGH or HGI. G has to be in the middle, because G corresponds with E, because those are the right angles. Okay? So those would be the two that are congruent. Find angle RST. If this angle is 76, these two angles are congruent because they're opposite the congruent sides. So what's 180 minus 76? 104. So you have to take 104 divided by 2. And you get 52. Okay? Then, by vertical angles, this is 52. And so, since those are congruent sides, those two are congruent angles. So again, you take 180 minus 52, and what do you get? 128. And then take 128 divided by 2. What do you get? So each of these angles are 64. And then RST is what we're looking for, so that's 64. What do you do with these two angles? Set them equal to each other. 3x minus 12 equals 2x plus 30. So subtract 2x. Negative 12, or x minus 12 equals 30. Add 12. X equals 42. So if x is 42, that would make this one 84 plus 30, like 114, and that one 114, and that would make it work out. Okay. Why are these two triangles congruent for 15? Is it angle side angle? What two angles do we know? I only know this angle. I don't know either of these angles, so it can't be angle side angle. Do we know the hypotenuse of either of these? No, so it's not HL. Do we know two sides? Well, I know BD is congruent to BD because it's shared, so those have to be equal. So I have two sides and the angle in between, two sides and the angle in between, so it's side angle side. It's not side 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 because I don't know the third sides of each. So side angle side. So these two triangles, I know by side angle side they have to be congruent. So if they're congruent, this side equals this side. So we set them equal to each other. 2x minus 6 equals x plus 12. Subtract x from each side. X minus 6 equals 12. Add 6. X equals 18. So if x is 18, what's 18 plus 12? 30. What's 2 times 18? Minus 6 is? So 30 and 30. AC is what we're looking for. AC equals 60. Okay. 17. What is BD? Is BD a median? Well, if we look at these two triangles, we know this is congruent to this. Well, this is congruent to itself. So it makes the triangles congruent to each other. So then this is congruent to this, and these are right angles. So since D is the midpoint of this side, is BD the median? Yep. Is BD an altitude when it goes from the vertex perpendicular to the opposite side? Yes. Is BD a perpendicular bisector? It's the midpoint, it's perpendicular, right? So then, yes to that. Is it an angle bisector? Is these two angles congruent? Yep. So it's all four of them. It is all four of them. All right, 18. What's my missing angle on 18? Yeah, how many degrees is it? 57 degrees is my missing angle. So what's the smallest angle? 57A. So the side opposite is the shortest side. So BC would be the shortest side. Possible range of values for x. Now, an angle can't be 0, can it? Or any smaller than 0. So 0 is the smallest it can be. And then you put in the 2x minus 6. And then you put in the 36. Because this is opposite 24. This is opposite 26, so this is smaller than this. So, whatever you do to the middle, you do to all three parts. So how do we get x alone in the middle? Well, you have to add 6. So if you add 6 there, you add 6 here, you add 6 here. So 6 is less than 2x, which is less than 36. Nope, 42. And then whatever you do to the middle, you do to all three parts. So you divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. So 3 is less than x, which is less than 21. Which is choice B. All right, again, these two triangles are congruent by hypotenuse leg. So that means these two are equal to each other. So 4x plus 15 equals 8x minus 5. What do you do to each side? Subtract 4x. So 15 equals 4x minus 5. Then we add 5. So 20 equals 4x, and then we divide by 4. X equals 5. If x equals 5, we want to know what ABD is. So we stick 5 in for this one. 4 times 5 plus 15. 4 times 5 is 20 plus 15 is 35 degrees. A triangle has sides of 25 and 30. What best describes the length of the third side? So to find the shortest side, we have to do what to these two? Subtract them. So can it be less than 5 or does it have to be greater than 5? It has to be greater than 5. And then we add them. So these two add up to be 55. So it has to be less than 55. So it has to be greater than 5 and less than 55. How many sides does this have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sides. So to find x, we take 7 minus 2 times 180, which is 5 times 180, which is 900. And then we take the other sides and add them up. We take 135 plus 112 plus 100 plus 158 plus 130 plus 150. We add them up, we get 5, carry the 1, we get 5, and 5 make 10, and that makes 18, carry the 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 785 degrees is what the other ones add up to. If we subtract, we get 115. That's a 115 degree angle. All right, 23. What's the measure of each interior angle of a dodecagon? Well, a dodecagon has how many sides? 12. So you take 12 minus 2 times 180, which is 10 times 180, which is 1800. Now, you want each angle, so you divide it by 12. What's 180 divided by 12? 150 degrees. What's the perimeter of this kite? Well, we know on a kite, the diagonals are perpendicular. If we know two sides of a right triangle, to find the third side, we have to use the Pythagorean theorem. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. If this is A and this is B, this is C. So C squared equals 15 squared plus 20 squared. C squared equals 225 plus 400. C squared equals 625. Take the square root. C equals 25. This is 25. So now the bottom two triangles, you have to do the Pythagorean theorem again. So again, c squared equals 20 squared plus 21 squared. C squared equals 400 plus 441. C squared equals 841. Take square root. C equals 29. So if that's 29, this is 29, because those are two the same. So if you want the perimeter, you add them up. The top two add up to 50. The bottom two add up to 58. 58 plus 50 is 108. We good? This one's a little hard to read. Okay? DM is 32. I think you can get that. AM was 20. It's not the angle up here. It's the length of AM is 20. So MC is 32 and MB is 20. Now these two angles down here are 62 and 24. So these two angles over here are 24 and 62. Okay. So we want to know what angles ABC is. Well, I'll come to that one later because I don't know that yet. The length of AB, I don't know how long that is, so I'll get to that later. DB I can figure out right now. If this is 32 and this is 20, how long is DB? 52, so that goes to there. ADC, I know what this is. Right there, we have 86. So ADC is 86. ABC, well, if this is 86 down here, and this is parallel to it, because it's a trapezoid, these two are parallel, then these two angles are supplementary. So you take 180 minus 86, and what do you get? So ABC is 94, so then AB, there's not enough information to figure it out. Okay, this and this is part of a parallelogram. Diagonals bisect each other, so what do you do with those two parts? Set them equal each other. 3x minus 2 equals 2x. Subtract 3x. Negative 2 equals negative x, so x equals 2. Now, we're told that dB from here to here is 4x plus 2. So 4 times 2 is 8 plus 2 is 10. So dB is 10, DE is 5, and EB is 5. So how long is EB? It is 5. So you got to be very careful to see what they are asking for. Okay, make sure you're very careful to know what they're asking for. All right. How do we make this a parallelogram? Well, if the angles, opposite angles are congruent, then it's a parallelogram. So 8x minus 20 equals 6x plus 10. So then, subtract 6x, negative 20, or 2x minus 20 equals 10. So 2x equals 30, divided by 2, x equals 15. So if x equals 15, 8 times 15 minus 20, 8 times 15 is like 120, minus 20 is like 100. So this is 100 and this is 100. So what would ADC be? Well, if these two are each 100 and these two are supplementary because they're part of a parallelogram, those would both have to be 80. So 80 is what ADC has to be to make it a parallelogram. What do you know about opposite sides of a parallelogram? They're congruent. They're equal to each other. 5x plus 2 equals 4x plus 12. Subtract 4x. So x plus 2 equals 12. Subtract 2. X equals 10. Opposite sides are congruent. 6y minus 8 equals 3y plus 10. Subtract 3y. 3y minus 8 equals 10. Add 8. 3y equals 18. Divide by 3. Y equals 6. those values, x equals 10, y equals 6, would make that a parallelogram because it would make the opposite sides equal to each other. Which are statements true about a rhombus? Are diagonals always congruent in a rhombus? No, that's a rectangle. That's a rectangle that the diagonals are always congruent to each other. Diagonals bisect each other, but diagonals are not always congruent. Because if you think about it, let me draw a rhombus like this. Is this diagonal the same length as this diagonal? No. Are the diagonals perpendicular? Yes, they are. Do the diagonals bisect opposite angles? Yes, they do. So it's yes for those two, no for the other one. This is a rectangle. This is a rhombus. And the last one, what would make this a rectangle? AB being parallel to CD makes it a parallelogram, but doesn't especially make it a rectangle. BX equaling XD, diagonals bisect each other. Yeah, that's nice, but it doesn't especially make it a rectangle. AC being perpendicular to BD would make it a rhombus, not especially a rectangle. But if the diagonals AC and BD are congruent, then it would make it a rectangle. So know your properties for rectangles and rhombuses, because the questions like 29 and 30 won't be exactly like this, but they'll be in that ballpark of what's a rectangle, what's a rhombus, and knowing the properties of them, which we just went over this last chapter. Okay? So, any major questions for the test?